Hey, Juan here. In today's video, let's talk about, I don't know what we are talking about. Hey, Juan here. In today's video, let's talk about product life cycle and what are the stages that typically a product goes through. So first of all, I would like to start not just with the moment that the product is launched, but the moment that actually the product idea comes up. So first of all, what you're going to have is some kind of ideation, some kind of concept, some kind of design that you have to plan in these early stages of what this product is going to be, what problem is going to solve. So this is basically the planning phase of the product. The next one is going to be the development stage of the product. And here we are talking more about execution. Typically, most of the people, when they talk about execution, they talk about the software development. If we're thinking about tech products, which is what I cover in this channel anyways. So when I think about development, I don't like to talk just about the software development, but I think that it's very important that we also have considered in this stage, what is going to be the market or the marketing, the go-to-market strategy, how we are going to launch this product at some point. This also requires planning. This also requires execution. And it's very important that this planning also happens in the very early stages, because many products and software products nowadays have parts of the promotion, parts of the actual sales that are part of the regular and normal process of the product, and they are not done as a separate activity on top or after the product is launched. Then there's going to be the product launch. In the product launch, basically what we are going to do is that we are going to get our product really into the market, into the users. There are many different types of product launch. I will link a video here where I talk about them, but basically you can do either a soft launch where you actually don't make a huge party out about your launch of the product, but you want to get it out. You want to make sure that you are validating with as many users as possible that this product has a value proposition that is meeting their problem and their needs and is solving it. This is really key. This is many times done through alpha testing, beta testing, MVP releases, and so on. Then there's the other one where you actually do a product launch, an official public product launch. Here, typically, you're going to have marketing campaigns. You're probably maybe even going to have discounts for those first users. You're going to drive much more activities to actually get those first users through the door and get them to purchase your product and start using it. But now, let's talk about what are the stages that the actual product goes when it's live out there. So this first one that I talked about was just a very high level point of view from the moment that you actually first ideate the product all the way until you retire it. But now let's go through the phases that the product goes through once it's publicly available. So the first one is going to be the introduction stage. It's the moment that you launch your product, especially if you launch it to the masses, but also if you launch it in a soft launch, you want that people discover your product. Here you're going to have to do either different types of promotion, marketing, reach out to potential users and customers so they go try your product, understand the value proposition, see that if it's giving value to them and solving the problems that they have. And before the next stage, there's going to be this transition moment, which is what Dan Olsen calls the product market fit. If your product doesn't find a market to solve the problems or the needs for, your product is not going to have a fit into that market, meaning your product is not going to move into the next stage. You might introduce it, some people might use it, they don't find value, your product is not valuable enough for them. If, on the other hand, the product is valuable, then you go into the next phase. The next phase is growth. This growth stage obviously doesn't mean hyper growth, doesn't mean that you are growing 50%, 100%, 1000% year over year. That's not how most of the companies or most of the products out there develop, although we love to hear those stories about the unicorns or the startups that are growing like crazy. That's not the case for most of the products out there. Most of the products out there have a more regular growth. And yes, at the beginning, it's going to be faster because you have very little customers. And going from 20 customers to 100 customers is not that hard. And that's a very good percentage in growth, but that's not very common and not normal to keep that growth rate over years. But basically what you have done here is that you have found product market fit and there is a demand for your product. So more customers are coming to you and more users are coming to your product, adopting it, start to taking it to their lives, and it's solving their needs. They're finding value. You're great. The next one is going to be typically the maturity stage. What usually has happened here is that your product most likely has reached its vision. You already has reached the goal of the problem that your product was going to solve. It's probably solving it in a reasonable or really good way. There is not much room for you to develop it further and to grow it or maybe improve it without maybe making it more complex and start losing potentially customers. So in this maturity stage, what usually happens is that the company and the product tend to get a little bit more maybe comfortable in the development side, and they are not doing drastic changes to the product, although they are doing optimizations to the product constantly. And here, what happens usually is that you as a company start looking more into things like international expansion and adopting or starting to sell your product to industries that are very close to the industry that you are serving, to the target personas that you are serving. So these are things that companies start to pay more attention to when they start to, okay, my product already solves a problem. How can I expand the impact that this product has? And yes, this is part of the growth, but it's not typically the really fast growth that you have in the beginning. Your product is mature enough. Basically, what you are doing is trying to diversify it and try to tackle the problems that nearby industries or target personas or user personas are having and try to solve those problems for those new users as well. And here you can notice another thing. In the growth phase, there are going to be competition, but probably the competition is not a big concern for you because you're still growing. When you're in the mature phase, typically competition is either catching up or it already has catch up and start to be more similar. And there start to be sometimes this more like friction of trying to offer the same value proposition that your competition has. That's a problem on its own self. And I have a video where I talk about how to deal with competition. And then you're going to have the next stage, which is the kind of sad stage that many of us are going to be at some point, sometimes with some of our products, that the product starts to be in decline. The product is not growing anymore or not even growing slightly anymore, but it's clearly losing market share. It's not that you have competitors, it's that your competitors have taken over you. They are offering more value. They are solving the problems and the needs that the users have better than you do. The reasons for the decline can be quite many. Typically, there's going to be a mix of quite many different things. Product probably of a certain age, product probably of a certain complexity that people are not willing to deal with that complexity anymore. So people can deal with complexity in the beginning, especially if it's a product that is solving a problem and there's barely any competition. When you have other products that are doing the same or something similar in an easier way, the answer is easy. Just think about yourself. What would you rather choose? Something that is complex to set up and use, or something that is very easy to set up and use? And maybe it doesn't give me as much value, but it just covers like 80% of the value and sold. I go to the simple one. Another one is that potentially you have already gathered a ton of technical debt, meaning that your product has been written and rewritten so many times that it's very complex to deal and to add new changes or big changes that are not going to break something in the existing parts of the product. This is a very common and very serious problem, and it's not a joke. If you don't pay attention to technical debt, it's gonna come and really hurt you at some point. Potentially also the ways of servicing your product are old school. If you think about nowadays, people want to buy things on their own generally. This is why many people are buying online. It's very easy. You just do it from home. Make an order, it comes home. You don't necessarily have to go to the grocery shop or wherever you had to go. Many people take that approach. And I'm not saying that every more brick and mortar shop is going to die. I don't think so. But there are many things where people are not willing to deal with complex services. So for example, how many times have you purchased a software where you actually purchase a license? You own the license and then you had to pay maintenance fees year over year so they maintain and you can get updates. Most likely you have never done that, but most likely you have purchased subscription softwares. So there are things that people are willing to do and things that people are not that willing to do. This is something that is fading away and people don't want to cope with that because many of these things can be done easily online nowadays. There are products where you still have to do it, especially if you think about a house, you still have to go and sign a contract most of the cases. Cars, I'm not completely sure if different companies like Tesla might have changed this, but going to purchase a car is certainly not a very quick process. And this is something that is changing and something that people don't want to deal with. And people just want to go put the credit card or pay by a bank transfer, do it online, do it quick, do it fast, move on and start using the product. People don't want to wait. If your product is making things difficult, purchase process, it takes several weeks, it might be that people are out the door and starting to think of another product. Same goes for support processes. How am I going to get answers to the problems that I have? If I have a good place to get answers, like a kind of a help desk, or if I have a good knowledge base, this is going to be something that people are going to decide to stay with your product. Sorry for talking a little bit too much about sunsetting your product. One of the things that you have to think about when sunsetting your product is that problem that the customers have something that you want to still solve with a new product? You have to be able to answer that question. That sunsetting your product might open the door for you to start building a new product. And this is an important decision, and something that you have to consider. Obviously, there's going to be cannibalization of the old product. And this is one of the reasons why many companies don't want to do this. You can see with the traditional car manufacturers nowadays having a huge problem moving towards EVs because they are cannibalizing the existing offering, which means that they are losing money in one side while they're trying to grow in the other side, and this side is not giving enough money. It's a very tough decision for them to make. And the problem is that many of those companies are going to be disrupted because of not having the courage of making that decision. Different story, potentially a different video. So how about you? Where is your product? Where is the product that you're working now on? In which stage is it? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one. And remember, stay safe.